So we don't normally talk a lot about sports, but let's start off talking about that. What was that you were telling me a minute ago about?
Oh, breaking news. Breaking news yesterday. Brian Kelly got fired as the head coach of LSU. You couple that with the firing of Billy Napier at Florida, James Franklin at Penn State. There's a lot of shuffling going to be going on in the offseason, not the least of which is the big program at LSU.
Yeah.
So,
And I don't know if I've told you guys the viewers before, but Chris and I are Ole Miss fans. And for
hotty toddy.
yeah, for those of you that are international, it's a university in Mississippi. And the football team is what we're talking about. And yeah, Florida, I've seen where Florida's trying, or it seems like they've been trying to get Kiffin, or that's the rumor anyway, who is our head coach. But I think, like you said, I hope that's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but
Could go to LSU too.
yeah.
Shut up, Jack.
Yeah, don't,
No.
don't be giving people ideas.
Yeah, well, that trust me, that's already been thought of and already mentioned.
Yeah.
But
sure.
when you're a coach that has a dynamic offense and you're going to a program that traditionally has not had more than 8 or 9 wins on average, and you're adding those extra 2 or 3 wins a year, like the past 2 or 3 years, we've had above 10 wins
Mhm.
every year. And people take notice, especially the place that hasn't traditionally had that history of having those double digit wins. When you do that, uh, you know, that's the name of the game. People want to win. So they want to get a coach that's going to help them get over the hump. And, a lot of times when they see these coaches at a lower tier, perceived lower tier program, uh, they they want to grab them. That's what happened with Napier. Napier was winning, so that's why they brought him to Florida. It hasn't translated to wins in Florida. Brian Kelly was doing decent. I wouldn't say he was burning it up, but he was doing decent at Notre Dame when they hired him.
Mhm.
I said from the beginning that Brian Kelly wasn't an SEC coach, and that's proven to be the case. Um,
Wasn't was it Orgeron that was there right
uh-huh.
before him?
Yeah, Orgeron. In fact, Orgeron is he was 2 years removed from having an undefeated season when he got fired.
Yeah.
So that's how fast people can turn on you. Uh,
And so, you know, they got rid of him. Now they're getting rid of this one. Who do you think they go to next?
who knows? I never know with LSU. Most of the time, I'll be honest with you, in my lifetime, with the exception of Nick Saban, I have never seen LSU get a coach, and I thought, well, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good choice. I've always been scratching my head with whatever LSU did for coach wise. Now I'm not complaining. I want Ole Miss to have better staff and better players every year, but it is puzzling a little bit the way that LSU has been choosing their personnel.
Do you remember who was coaching them when they had, what was it, Leonard Fournette, the really good tailback that
Yeah,
was
that was Les
always in
Miles,
the
I believe.
Les
Whenever he
Miles?
was
Yeah.
there, yeah.
Yeah, Les Miles seems like he was one of their better coaches.
I've always thought Brian Kelly was Les Miles 2.0.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So you didn't like Les Miles?
Les Miles was how should I put it?
I don't know a lot about him. So
I kind of I don't like to call people names, but
yeah, don't be mean. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
think that I'm not sure would have even had him for a coordinator, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. Huh.
That's how little confidence his clock management skills were non-existent.
So he didn't pay much attention to the.
He did not. He did crazy things sometimes, like
Uh,
when he only needed 3 points to win, and he throws a pass touchdown with the time running out. I really kind of thought that was a mistake. I thought the team screwed up on one of those games, and he was asked about it in the post game uh, press conference,
mm-hmm.
and he said, "Oh yeah, I call that play. I would do it again." And I thought, really, you would throw a ball to the end zone again, over a kick when you only needed 3 points to win. That tells me all I need to know about you, to be honest with you. I mean, that's an asinine decision to me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he did stuff like that. This was a regular occurrence all the time. Uh, just I don't know.
So
And
I
with the money that's being thrown around these days for pay, especially for head coaches, uh, you gotta be making good decisions. I mean, you're talking about double-digit millions now.
mhm.
In fact,
Yeah, the bar is high for sure.
right, the head coach for Indiana, and let's be honest, who's Indiana? Uh, just signed an 8-year, $93 million contract, which is a little over $11 million a year at Indiana.
Yeah.
He's the 4th highest paid coach, in the NCAA from the University of Indiana. And until I saw his name in reference to his contract, I had never even heard of the guy.
Are they winning?
Oh, yeah, they're number 2 in the nation right now, but, uh, and in fact, they that's one of the reasons they paid him. They wanna make sure that with all these openings that he
Somebody
stayed
doesn't
there.
try to
Yeah,
snatch him. Yeah.
Dang, I
and,
didn't know they're number 2. That's
oh,
crazy.
yeah,
I didn't realize
undefeated
that either.
undefeated number 2.
What is
Um,
Indiana's mascot?
Hoosiers.
Random
Yeah.
question.
Mhm.
Okay. What is that? I don't even know.
I knew you were about to ask that. It has something to do with the workforce
Oh,
in
okay.
Indiana. In fact, I'll look it up.
Who's your? It's spelled like Hosier, right? Like
That's right,
HOSI.
or Hoosier. Yeah, yeah.
Hosier.
A Hoosier is a person from Indiana. First of all, it says
Oh, okay.
the term is an official nickname for the state's residents, and it's associated with Indiana pride. While its exact origin is debated, there are many theories, including that it came from the phrase "whose year," which was the name of a contractor who hired workers from Indiana.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, I was thinking it was maybe going to be a miner or something, like some sort of coal miner or
right,
something.
right.
Um, but yeah, okay, I can see that.
So-
Kevin, tell me about some of those things that we talked about with Riverside the other day. Uh, what are some of the things that you like that Riverside does as a software?
Yeah, one thing that I really like about it, I like that it automatically generates short clips of your content, and there tend to be at least a few short clips that it generates that have the potential to go viral. So that's a very helpful feature. If you didn't have that, and let's say our producer Jack had to do that on his own, it would take a good bit of his time to go through the footage and try to figure out, okay, what's likely to go viral. And so I feel like just that feature alone saves a lot of time. Um, and yeah, Jack, what else would you say? What features about it do you like, since you're always on the back end production?
The magic audio is definitely the best.
Yeah, Magic Audio is a really good piece
Takes
of
out
it.
everything. Like if there's a hum somewhere in the background, or like if I were to like hit the mic like that, it would take that out automatically.
Yeah,
Jack, if you were having to do some of this stuff on your own, how much time would it 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 cause you to have to work extra?
Bro, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
it would take at
Hours.
least probably 4 hours total.
Wow.
So it saves you at least a minimum of 4 hours per recording. You would
Mhm.
say.
Well, it would make
That's a
me
big
want to
deal.
use Riverside for that reason alone.
Yeah. Yeah, time saving is probably the number one best thing about it. So yeah, we find it very useful. But anyway, also please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content or you enjoyed our recording today. It helps us out a lot. It helps the algorithm push the recording to more people, which is obviously very important. And I haven't been mentioning number goals yet, but we have yet to reach 100 subscribers. So we would love for you to help us reach 100 subscribers. And you don't get partnered with YouTube until you reach it's like 2000. And then 4,000 watch hours and or 3 million shorts views, which we're still a good ways away from that. But yeah, just take a second, hit the like, hit subscribe if you like the content, and that alone helps us out a lot. Um, yeah, that's all I got. Hey, do you remember, not just to switch topics a little bit, do you remember what you were asking me a minute ago as it relates to Federal Reserve and all that stuff?
Um, as far as was it the tax rate? Like on
Yeah,
money?
yeah, we were talking about tax
And
rates.
we were talking about the payout. Apparently, Brian Kelly's. Now I don't know how long. I don't know what the year term this goes for, but Brian Kelly's buyout is he's getting $800,000 a month in his buyout.
Yeah, that's
And I
right.
think my question was,
How is that taxed?
how is that taxed?
Yeah,
Because he would definitely be in the upper bracket of the 1%.
yeah, I would assume all coaches, certainly initially, I would think pay ordinary income taxes until and unless, now once they've made millions of dollars, I'm sure, they're going to have the ability to talk to attorneys and accountants. And I would imagine those attorneys and those accountants are going to advise them, hey, it's time for you to start some sort of business. And then you can end up paying more long-term capital gains rates as opposed to ordinary income tax rates. Um, that's one thing about.
Let me ask you this:
Mhm.
if that money, of course, technically, I guess this money is coming to him anyway. But if he took that money and put it into a pile and gave himself a lower salary, can you do that?
Um, I mean, as far as setting up his own business and paying himself a lower salary, yeah, he could absolutely do that. And that's a strategy that has been used by uh Warren Buffett's one example. He has notoriously, I think for years and years, paid himself 100,000, which don't get me wrong, that's a good salary, but for somebody that's worth, 100 plus $1 billion,
Right.
and it's way more than that now. But uh yeah, it's a smart move, uh, because it gives you and I'm not bashing him for doing this, but it gives you the appearance of, I'm doing the righteous thing, I'm not taking much pay, but what it really does is protect you from getting hammered on taxes,
Sure. Sure. Of
there's a
course, with that kind of money, honestly, let's say you are Jeff Bezos or uh, Bill Gates
Mhm.
or Zuckerberg or some of these others that are billionaires. Let's say that, for instance, right now the government took half of what they own. I mean, that's a lot, but let's say they took half of what they own. Is it going to affect their lifestyle one bit? Not at all.
Not
I
really,
mean, when you say you
unless
have
you can.
$100 billion and now you have 50, is
Yeah,
my life going to change because my net worth went from 100 billion to 50 billion?
might have to sell the mega yacht,
No,
yeah.
and I'm not.
Which is a big deal,
I don't want
Chris,
that.
not
Even with the people that I disagree with, I
yeah,
don't. I don't want taxes to be that much on anybody.
yeah.
However, when you're a billionaire, is it really going to change your life that much?
Nah,
You know.
that most wealthy people and or financial experts will tell you that once you get past, I don't know, even 10 million, it's really negligible from there,
Right.
because once you have what you need to survive, really, you could argue anybody that's even working and getting a decent salary, once you get, I'd argue, past a few $100,000, your life's not really going to change drastically.
Right.
Once you're able to meet your needs and most of your wants, you know,
And what some of these people have really, it's kind of shocking to me. It's a little bit. It's just strange the mentality of some people that have a lot of money. You mentioned yachts and that kind of thing. That kind of stuff doesn't appeal to me not one bit. And also people that have, in different states, different areas of the United States, seven or eight houses. That doesn't appeal to me a bit. I
yeah,
don't, once I have the house that I want and I have the vehicle that I want, um, I might do a little traveling, maybe, see some
yeah.
places I haven't
No,
seen. But,
travel.
but I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't really get that. I mean, I never have understood gathering a bunch of stuff like these people who have like uh, these garages that have like 15 cars in them. What are you doing?
no, yeah. It's a lot of that is. you know, a lot of these people, not all of them, but a lot of these people, I feel like in many cases are coming from poor families and they get overwhelmed by
Sure.
this new wealth and they're like, ooh, shiny things, and you go after every shiny thing
Right.
that you see.
And you keep hearing these stories like, these, mega wealthy, sports guys. Some of the
Mhm,
guys, most I say most of them, some of the ones that you hear a lot are those that are in combat sports like boxing and those kind of things. There was one year in particular that Mike Tyson was at his peak and he had like $100 million at that time. And one year the new lineup of Bentleys came out and he bought one of every vehicle that they sell for that year. It's like 5 or 6 different vehicles that he bought,
gee.
brand new Bentleys. Uh, and then a few years later, he was bankrupt, and I thought, "Well,
What
I
celebrity was
can"
this? Did you say
Mike Tyson,
Mike Tyson?
and
Yeah,
and I can I started to say, "I can tell you where the problem started. It's when you bought one of every vehicle that they put out."
yeah,
You know, I how do you go from having $100 million to being broke?
yeah.
That is, I mean,
Well, now somebody,
you would have to really work at
yeah.
using all that money to
Oh
get rid
yeah,
of it, you know?
yeah. And I mean, I'm not, I'm not saying that everybody shouldn't be more responsible, but in Mike Tyson's case, and I'm not bashing him here either, I can understand because I don't know a ton about the guy, but I do know that he came from a really bad
Sure,
background, as I
and
understand
poor,
it.
and
Yeah,
yeah, sure,
and I think he basically had a foster parent. So I
sure.
mean, and I don't think I'm bashing foster kids or anything, but when you don't have that biological family unit and guidance, you know, it's I would I would imagine, I don't know, I was lucky I had both my parents around, but I would imagine it's much more challenging to
But I mean,
navigate.
millions of dollars,
Yeah,
houses, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. Like I said, buying one of every Bentley that came out one calendar year. Uh,
mhm,
that is the kind of thing that even billionaires don't do.
yeah. No, it's
And you understand, uh, if he just had a friend that would be honest with him, that maybe if he would have listened to, that said, "Hey, man, uh, it's your money. You do with it what you want to do, but this is like water in your hands right now. You're getting drained."
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people just aren't educated on financial matters at all. And it's really easy to it's easy to make mistakes even when you are financially educated. So
Sure.
it's all the easier to make mistakes when you're not.
Well, nothing ever lasts forever. I don't care what kind of business you're in, nothing lasts forever. Jeff Bezos is
Yeah,
not
that's
gonna be
true.
around forever. Zuckerberg is not gonna be around forever. One day, uh, this river of money that's coming to you is gonna stop,
Mhm.
and you have to, especially as a sports figure, your, uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Your period where you're making money is very small, very, very small in
Yeah.
sports. And you've got to know that, I need to put some of this up. It's not gonna be
The
here
tap's
forever.
gonna run
Yeah,
out.
that's right.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be here forever.
No, it's like you said, it's athletes are a good example or entertainment industry is a good example, but it's also this like you said, the
Your
same.
window of opportunity, that's what I meant to
Yeah.
say,
When
window.
it's also the same though with any business because before you know it, another business can pop up and they created something better than what you
That's
created. Or
right.
so I mean, you're right. Everybody does have usually some sort of window. And that's part of the reason why really wealthy people, billionaires and so on, end up, you know, hiring advisors and they end up not investing in so many different things and not just putting money into one thing.
And that's one of the reasons that from the very beginning, patents were there because people didn't want their idea stolen.
Yeah.
Their income, like just like you said, could be snatched in a second, by somebody that can make it for 50 cents a unit cheaper,
Yeah.
or,
Competition, while it's good for the consumer, um, and businesses and their figureheads will act like, competition's not that big of a deal. But really, as a business and the leader of a business, competition is your biggest enemy.
Mhm.
And that's part of the problem is it's all competition. Yeah, it makes people better, but as a business owner, competition is a threat to your livelihood. Whereas as a consumer, it's good for you because it creates pricing stability, I guess you would say. For
And it's interesting that you'll watch a show like, was it Shark Tank or something like that?
Mhm.
Sometimes you'll hear, and to the average person, it probably sounds like a weird question, but these billionaires are asking, "How much money are you putting into product development?" Because they themselves know that if you're not constantly in this world improving your product or doing something to give it an edge on others, you could quickly go out of business.
Oh yeah. And we can pick on Apple a little bit. I think, and I don't. Maybe they still have. I'm sure they still have some level of innovation, but from what I hear and read, what Apple mostly does now, and it's smart. Don't get me wrong, is they basically mainly look at their competitors and what new features and things that they're adding. And since they're in the good market position that they're in, as long as they're paying attention to what their competitors can do, all they got to do is add that or a similar feature into the iPhone or the
And
iPad,
when you have
and
a
make it a little bit better. Like they'll improve it a little bit over other products.
right, and they're quickly what are they going to be, the first $1 trillion
Oh yeah,
company?
they already are. They're well, Nvidia. The last time I looked, it could have changed, but
That's a
Nvidia.
lot of money. What I'm saying, that's a lot of money you can put in product and development when you
Oh
have that
yeah,
kind of money.
Nvidia. The last time I looked at it was worth 4 trillion. Apple was like 3 trillion or something like that.
Wow.
But yeah, um, and
And that's a lot of power. That's a lot of political power
oh yeah.
when you have that kind of money.
Well, I was gonna say, to put that in perspective, I want to say this year the United States is expected to collect, and this could have been last year, either last year or this year, expected to collect $5 trillion. So
Are you talking about in tax revenue?
yeah,
Wow.
for
Wow.
the entire tax revenue for the
And yet
United
we're
States government.
$37 trillion in debt.
Yeah, well, they collect 5 and spend 7. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's right.
But the reason I bring that up is now that we have companies that are several $1 trillion companies, and our government's revenue for a year is roughly 5 trillion, that tells you we're starting to get into a little bit of crony capitalism. And that people are going to think, oh man, he hates capitalism. No, I like capitalism, but once you let if you start letting a few businesses run too far, things are going to start getting a little shaky. Because what happens when these powerful businesses are powerful enough to hire their own armies? I mean, if you have that amount of wealth, what's to stop you from hiring soldiers for your company?
Well, take for instance, Apple. With that kind of money, even in California, as big as California is, if they wanted to, they could have any politician elected realistically that they wanted to in California. They could decide the governor. They could decide all the small races if they, and this is strictly by putting money behind the candidate.
Yeah. And then what happens if AI takes off like they want it to, and they have humanoid robots that can do their bidding? I mean, it's fixing to get sketchy. If
That's
if
right.
things play out the way that they want them to play out, we're fixing to be in a pretty sketchy world.
And one of the things political wise that they're having to deal with right now is we are 26 days and 9.5 hours into shutdown. And people are willing to put up with that for a while. Uh, I don't believe personally, I don't believe that you can go much over a month without it having political implications, like people changing who they vote for, that
Oh
kind of
yeah,
thing, because you're affecting their income. Now we're getting into a period where it's starting to affect SNAP benefits. Your people are not going to be able to get their money for food stamps and that kind of thing. And that's going to cause a lot of problems.
oh yeah,
There's 46 million people that collect those every month.
Hmm.
yep. That's I looked at that figure the other day too, and it's more than I expected it to be. And
Well, which is one of the comments that I saw below one of those stories that said, one of the commenters said that the question is not how you feel about these people that are not getting their benefits, is that why are there so many that are collecting these benefits?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey, Jack, can you type into Google or something and say, what was it, 46 million?
mhm.
Just see if Google will tell you what is, it's probably going to be, well, it may not be too big for a phone calculator, but 46 million times, what would you say would be an average
The average
SNAP
person
benefit?
who's fully on benefits gets the equivalent of a $50,000 a year job.
So
That's the truth.
$50,000 in SNAP.
The
Okay.
average person that is fully supported by the government gets the equivalent of a $50,000 a year job.
Yeah. So let's multiply 46 million by 50,000. But
That's
the phone, it's going to be too big for the phone. I'm pretty
well, I
sure.
mean, if you turn it sideways, it may not.
But yeah, I'm curious what that's gonna say. Cause I did a calculation the other day for some reason I had 4,000 in my mind and that ended up being 100 and something billion.
I've got it right here.
2.3 trillion.
2.3 trillion.
And that's per year.
Yes.
So 50,000 per year ends up being 2.3 trillion per year in SNAP benefits. So if that is true, which it seems like it is, then and people are trying to say, "Oh, it's just the rich and not the billionaires are the enemy." And don't get me wrong, billionaires um take more advantage than they should of society, but 2.3 trillion is no little number. That's a huge
And
chunk.
honestly, even though people complain, government workers, this kind of thing, I get it. It's a pain not having the money that you were expecting. I understand,
Yeah.
but it's strictly delaying it because the government always turns the benefits back on.
Mhm.
Plus, they give you back pay.
Yeah.
So it's not that you're not going to get it. It's just that you're having to wait a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine, especially if we end up swinging back to the left, and we get a Democrat president and so on,
And of course,
it'll
both
definitely.
sides are blaming the other.
Yeah. Oh
It's it's
yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
Democrats' fault. No, 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 it's the Republicans' fault. They all
Yeah.
want to blame each other.
Yep. And when you're the one missing pay, I imagine you get to the point where you're like, I don't really care which side it
That's
is.
right.
You're gonna fix this,
That's
or
right.
there's gonna be consequences. So you can't help but wonder at what point does it get to the boiling point and
And you look, it also opens your eyes every time this happens. It always opens your eyes to how many workers, how many people are uh, dependent upon the government for a paycheck.
yeah.
There's a bunch
Oh yeah.
that are dependent on the government for a paycheck.
Yeah, people love to pick on welfare and SNAP benefits, but if you consider every single person that's receiving some sort of income from the government, that's a much higher number.
Well, you look at it this way: nearly everyone that lives in the borders of Washington D.C. is a government employee.
Oh yeah.
Uh, all of, and I'm not knocking them, but all of our military personnel
Mhm.
is a government employee. They're all getting a check.
Yep.
Uh, you know, uh, again, there are so many industries. Everybody who works for FEMA, everybody who works for the Coast Guard, everybody who works for Border Patrol, they're all government employees and they're all getting checks.
Mhm. Yep. And then the other thing, and don't get me wrong, there are plenty of veterans that need their disability, but that's also not even taken into consideration, that a lot of these folks end up on
Sure,
disability and retirement funds and pensions and because although pension funds are supposed to come from stocks, I don't uh th- that's something I don't feel like we've talked about on the podcast before, but and pensions are much more rare now, traditional retirement type stuff, but most of those pension funds that retirees receive, especially government retirees, come from managed stock portfolios. Um Usually managed by some big investment bank, probably JP Morgan, Bank of America, something like that. Um, but anyway, yeah, what I'm getting at with that is the cost is usually even higher than you initially think it is
sure.
because there's other things that we don't see, um, or other places where the revenue is going that most of us aren't even aware of. Then you also have, your big military defense contractors that absorb a lot of that money for new technology. And don't get me wrong, unlike a lot of people, I think we do need to spend a lot on defense. I think we definitely sometimes spend more than we should, but having a strong military, at least for defense purposes, is really important. And to potentially come to the aid of allies, although we've been known to interfere with things that maybe we shouldn't interfere with, but
No. No.
yeah,
What?
yeah,
Yeah.
surprising, shocking. Uh,
Our government will never do anything that doesn't benefit us, Kevin. All right.
yeah,
No, that's a fact.
they, yeah, our treasury's pretty much just been a toy for the past few decades. It feels like, um, but yeah,
Like
there's
when we have a government that can basically write their own checks, decide their own salaries, uh, say that well, I ask you this: is there any other entity in the world, in the world? I'm not talking about just here, in the world, that can be in $37 trillion of debt and still be able to borrow money?
only massive governments. I mean, not there aren't many
I mean,
examples.
I don't believe there's a government of a country in the world that would be able to borrow the amount of money that the United States has. We're the richest country in the
Yeah,
world, therefore we have the best, I guess, borrowing power. But
yeah. The only ones that could come anywhere close would be like China, Germany, Japan, some of those
sure.
guys. But like you said, they still don't have the level of wealth that we do. And one smart thing that I'll give the government a little bit of credit for that they've been doing lately is, or supposedly, is buying more precious metals. So now, to me, that gives your currency more legitimacy when you have a lot of precious metals. But, and something else I was trying
Let's
to,
talk about that a little bit more right now too. We
Before we
talked about. Go ahead. I'm sorry,
before we go
Jack.
to that, I picked up a stat, like other countries that have like high debt. So Japan has 22 or 234% of their GDP is like in their national debt. Like 249% times their GDP
you
is like
said
their
that's
national.
Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
compared to the US, which is only 123. So I mean, percent of the national debt, like it's not as bad as we make it, I guess. But the number,
It's bad. It's just that like Jack's saying, it's becoming the norm for a lot of nations. And Japan may not be, they may be hanging in there okay for right now, but I want to say,
All that means is they're catching up to us in debt. That's all that
exactly,
means.
yeah.
well, Argentina, I don't know if it was Argentina, some South American country, maybe it was Venezuela, was in a similar but worse position, and their currency took a huge, huge hit. And so that's ultimately what you have to worry about. And that takes us back to the Federal Reserve thing. When a government, ever since we got off of precious metals or the dollar being backed by precious metals, well, now the Federal Reserve can technically print however much money they want to.
Well, you look
And
at it this way: not only is all that stuff against United States, especially the debt, but they also influence they because of the United States wealth, they influence those who give them a credit rating.
mhm,
You understand that we've just dropped to a double A credit rating from a triple A,
yep,
and we're $37 trillion in debt, and we just dropped one letter.
yep,
Uh, yeah, you think they let the average person do that?
nah. And the other thing that, or power that
You miss one
governments,
payment as a
yeah,
person and see what happens to your credit rating.
yeah, the other thing that governments have the power to do that regular people don't is, well, you start to ask yourself, okay, well, who's got the most claim on all that debt? And, maybe it's China, maybe it's whoever. If it's some country that's not as powerful as you are, especially militarily, what can they really do to collect on that debt?
Yeah,
So,
other than dropping our credit rating, which it would, you know, what does the average country do if the United States says, you know what, that money we owe you, we're not paying it back.
yeah,
We're in fact we're going to wipe it off our books like it doesn't exist.
yeah,
Now, if you want to come and take it, you're welcome to try. But
yeah, they could do that. Now, that being said, even though they could do that, and most countries probably wouldn't be militarily powerful enough to do anything about it, there would still be very severe consequences
Sure,
to that
sure.
because if the United States in the future wanted to borrow from others, they'd be like, nope.
That's
And
right.
it also causes other nations to want to get away from the dollar, which is another
Sure.
problem and debasement for the currency. And so all these reasons, in my opinion, have
Well, that's one of the things that I asked you about one time, and I'm still curious about. I'm not sure that we have anybody alive that's smart enough to be able to look at a figure on a piece of paper and say, "You know what? When we get to this point, the United States is technically in default."
yeah.
What does it take for is it just not making our payments
In my
that
mind, once you're past 100%, you're in trouble territory. So ever since we passed the
and look at what he said about Japan,
mhm,
where they
yeah,
are.
204, yeah, they're they're in trouble too. I mean, unless and that's I'm not saying go throw everything into precious metals, but I am saying that this is the reason why precious metals have gone up so much, certainly from 2020 to now.
And
And
we were
I
talking about the price of gold recently, and it continues to go up.
mhm,
We talked about that the tech industry is what's driving that.
yeah, well, that's part of it, and it's cooling off a little bit right now. Like it's once you have a dramatic rise, you're always going to have a bit of what we call consolidation, where it comes back down a little bit. Um, but I would expect that after a little bit of consolidation, it'll continue to rise again. Now, also another thing that you have to consider is although gold and silver tend to preserve your wealth or preserve value, you don't ever want to go into those entirely because although preservation of wealth is good, um, the thing that's going to help you the most and help society the most is active investment into businesses and real estate and so on. Because although gold and silver, like I said, are good for preservation, they're not going to ever produce or technically produce new wealth. The only reason they go up is fear. Um, people are in fear, and so they feel like they're safe havens. Uh, whether that fear is military conflicts or right now, people are saying it's the debasement of the dollar. So the dollar recently has been dropping in value as a result of our debt and global conflicts and so on. So that sort of thing is the environment in which precious metals typically rise. So it's a good idea to have some of it, but it's never a good idea to go all in to it.
And I know we
Uh,
probably talked about this. Um, we're not giving financial advice, but for you, what is a good percentage to be involved in precious metals? If you're going to be balanced like you want to be, what would be your perfect figure for you?
Normally in the past, I would have said like 5 to 10%, but honestly, if we keep going like we're going, getting in more debt and our currency being devalued, now I feel like it's more like 20%.
Hmm,
Like 20% of your liquid net worth should be in precious metals,
I
which
got
a
you.
lot of people are going to be like, yeah. But I mean, I,
Well, like you said, we're taking a huge chance, especially on industries where, like the United States, we're so far in debt. Uh, there's going to be a breaking point, right? I mean,
oh yeah. Well, there should be for the normal borrower, there would certainly be a, a breaking point, but that's the interesting thing about big governments and powerful countries is like we were saying a minute ago, if it comes time to like people are like, we need to collect, they're not going to be able to pay all this back. Well, what happens now?
right.
Are you a big enough bully on the block to knock over the other big bully on the block?
Well, especially with and again, I'm not knocking the way he's running things, but when you have someone like, Donald Trump in office, where he's basically encouraging I mean, in fact, uh, I think it was Israel that is actually forgiving a bunch of our debt, which is a cool thing for us,
Yeah,
but, uh, which is kind of odd to me as well. We give money to Israel every year as part of an aid package to them.
Mhm.
How is that not coming off of our debt when we loan them money?
Yeah. Well, the other the other problem that I don't think you mentioned something earlier about none of us is smart enough to figure out what the exact consequences are gonna be. Well, another thing that I think is too complicated for a lot of us to fully understand exactly what's gonna happen is the interconnection of all the different economies in the world, and how that ties in, or what I'm trying to say is that if the United States goes down, uh, worst case scenario, the dollar goes all the way in the toilet and, the country goes to trash. That would severely impact a lot of other nations as well because we're such a large country and have such a big government that our economy is interconnected with many other economies, China, you know.
And that's one of the things that I talked to you about before that opened my eyes was COVID,
Mhm,
about how, uh, not only is all the industry tied together, where it's transportation, whether it's, it doesn't matter what the industry is, they're all kind of interconnected. But like you said, government finances are all tied together,
mhm.
where it's almost like a military, mutually, assured destruction
Yeah.
is what they say.
You owe me and I owe you, and, where do all these
Right,
IOUs go, you
right.
know? Have you ever seen that, what is it, the Spider-Man meme where he's pointing at that's sort of what that reminds me of. "You owe us money." "No, you owe us money." So, who gets to collect?
That's
Um,
right.
yeah. Um, so I don't even though I know a lot about financial matters and I know a lot about the stock market, we could be entering, and I'm pretty sure we are entering uncharted territory. So anybody that tells you that they know for sure exactly what's going to happen, that should be a red flag for you. Uh, because nobody does know exactly what's going to happen.
Sure.
Hopefully, I mean, you know,
Well, we can always get in touch with the psychic networks and, you know.
yeah, demonic. Don't do that.
That's a joke, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Demons. Don't allow demons. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And I would just advise everybody pray, stay prayed up and, don't just pray for the United States, pray for
And as
everybody.
of
But
individual, practice not living beyond your means.
yeah, yeah. Don't don't follow government's example of I mean, some debt isn't necessarily bad, but biting off way more than you can chew is definitely bad.
Now, again, we've talked about Ramsey before,
Mhm.
again, I know you don't subscribe to everything totally that he says. However, one of the good things that I agree and believe that he says is, uh, now I'll full disclaimer, I'm not even living this out myself right now,
Mhm.
but he says the only debt you should have, if you have any debt, is your home.
Yeah.
That he doesn't even want you to have debt on your car.
Well,
But
if we lived in a world where we weren't taxed as high as we are, and we're even though we feel like we're taxed high, we're still taxed less than many other countries. But what I'm getting at with that is the reason that debt is a little bit good for folks like us in the United States is because of taxes. If we were taxed like we've talked about before, a flat rate like 10%, everybody was taxed equally and fairly, there wouldn't be as much of a need to take on such a large amount of debt. And the reason a lot of wealthy people and organizations take on a lot of debt is because it helps lower their uh, taxable income because you can't tax debt.
this is one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and I actually forgot to mention it to you, after it was mentioned, but we had an anonymous guest on, uh, a few weeks back, and when I mentioned the question, did he think that it was fair to have a flat tax for everybody? He said no. Do you agree with that?
No.
See, I don't either. I didn't understand the logic behind
Yeah.
that response, about Uh,
I'm not gonna pick on him. He's a smart guy. He definitely knows a lot of what he's talking about, but I think a lot of people simply don't like the idea because, you have so many people, and don't think I'm always trying to defend rich people. Rich people definitely could pay more of a fair share. But most people, when they say no to a flat tax rate, it's either driven by envy or greed.
mhm.
Uh, they're two sides of the same coin, pretty much.
And
Uh,
that's why I couldn't wrap my head around that response of, you know, granted, I get that people see people with a lot of wealth and say, "Well, if I took 30% of yours, it wouldn't hurt you near as bad as taking 10% of mine."
yeah,
Well, the problem is, and this is one of the things I'm getting at, is that,
he is right about that, but
well, but here's the thing. People who are making less should not be trying to live like a billionaire.
yeah,
You live in your means. That's what you do. And that's what people I feel are unwilling to do.
yeah.
And
No, and we tend to not. Another thing about, whether you're the wealthiest country in the world or not, even once you accumulate more wealth and you're doing well, we have this tendency to underappreciate and not feel like we're doing nearly as well
sure,
as we are. So,
that's right.
so the desire for more and the greed and the envy doesn't stop just because you've accumulated more wealth. And this is again why God continually reminds us in the Bible that not to be entirely focused on wealth accumulation and gold and silver, and because
Right.
that tendency
To build up
towards
treasures in
greed and
heaven.
envy.
That's right.
Yeah. But now he's also not saying be irresponsible. If you're living in the wealthiest country in the world, you're going to be expected to be a good steward of
And that's
what
what
you're
we gotta keep
given.
in our mind too. None of us has anything that God hasn't blessed us with.
Yeah.
And we have been blessed with that for a reason. And we're responsible, whether it's material things, whether it's spiritual things, whether it's friendships, whether it's family. We all have been invested in by the Lord, and we're responsible for managing what He has given us to manage. It doesn't belong to us, it belongs to the Lord, and we're supposed to be managing it for Him.
Yep. And one thing that speaking of Ramsey, that I do like that Ramsey says is he says it's good to have the mindset of this is all God's money. This is not my money.
Sure.
And that's the mindset that you should have, is you're just temporarily the custodian of that wealth
And
for
let's
the
be
time being.
honest, whether it's Proverbs or some other books of the Bible, we're warned against getting into debt.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
No, it's a strong worded warning too.
sure.
I mean,
It's
uh
kinda hard to muddle, "Oh, no, man." You know?
yeah, borrower is slave to the
That's
lender.
right.
That's pretty strong,
That's right.
pretty strong language. And it's true. Although
And the
the
Lord understands, I mean, that's where your mind is going to be.
mhm,
That's where your loyalty is going to be, is where you store up that treasure.
yeah.
And
Yep. You definitely have to get tight control
or it
over
will control you.
oh yeah, yeah. It's either control it or it will control you. That's 100% true. Um but yeah, like I was saying earlier, debt doesn't have to be terrible, but biting off more than you can chew, taking off on more than you can handle, that's when things start to get really hairy. And like we were talking about a minute ago as well, it um yeah, it depends on what you're using it for, how much you take on, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. And it wouldn't be, like I was saying earlier, as necessary to take on large sums of debt if we had that flat tax or some sort of more fair method of taxation where people knew immediately every year what they're going to owe. To me, a part of what creates this problem is we always talk about greed by businesses or individuals, but greed by governments, I think, is a big part of the problem in today's world. They want to come up with new ways to tax things. We have both consumption taxes and income taxes and property taxes and, you
Mhm.
know, mm, why?
What is your what's your opinion? I always come out, more on the side of no tax at all.
Yeah,
But
it'd be
what
nice,
what
but
what is your opinion of why first of all, why do we have property taxes? If I own a piece of land, why should I have to pay tax on that land?
just because Uncle Sam wants more money,
I mean,
that's
really, I mean,
no,
that's
that is the
honestly
reason.
the entire reason, right? They just want a piece of it.
Yeah,
And they can, so they made a law that every year you're gonna have to give me some money for the privilege of owning that land that you've already paid for.
yeah. Speaking of memes, I'm sure y'all have also seen that one of, like, Uncle Sam doing this
That's
every
right.
time you trade money,
That's
"Where's my
right.
cut?" You know? I mean, it's funny, but it's like that's how it is.
See, not only do they want money every year for that land that you own, they got a big chunk of it when you bought the land to begin
Mm,
with. It's just a never-ending cycle.
yeah. But, and
And
see
then when you die and somebody, somebody inherits that property, they're gonna pay taxes on it again.
yeah, and what really drives me crazy about that is I feel like bureaucrats, what they really don't understand, that's what I like to call politicians when I'm especially irritated at them, is bureaucrats, because to business people and financial folks, that's sort of like our way of calling them retarded, bureaucrats. But bureaucrats do not understand that if they were to give you a fair and flat tax rate, they would probably end up making more anyway, because now you're empowering businesses and individuals to keep more of their retained earnings. And most of them are going to go right back into the economy and spend that money with these businesses and these products and these services. Therefore, companies get wealthier, people get wealthier, and that 10% that the government gets higher and higher. So it's going to keep going up. You don't have to be super unfair and raise taxes and property taxes. And
Right.
if you just do it fairly, businesses and individuals will thrive, and that 10% will get higher and higher and higher. You
It would
don't,
run much more efficiently. You would do away with a lot of the bureaucracy that you're talking about of having to need those people to keep up with all that stuff, as officials in the government. Not only that, but there would be far fewer people dodging taxes, that kind of thing, because everybody's paying the same fair rate. Um, and also, we would be picking up money from millions and millions and millions of more people every year.
mhm,
Uh, Honestly, if we paid a flat tax, you tell me, if we all paid a flat tax, would we not be bringing in more money?
I would think so. And I mean, you have a lot of people that are saying, like, I don't even want that. I want the tariffs to make up all of our revenue, which, it's like, all right, yeah, I can see that. But at the same time, we don't want the rest of the world hating
Well,
us.
you know what's this is my estimation, the ultimate reason that is, an untenable, uh, direction that we could go is because of Americans' greed.
Yeah.
We have
It would
people.
never be enough.
Right, we have people that, let's say China started, an automobile industry today and people wanted the car, okay?
Mhm.
If it was very popular, if next year because of tariffs, the price went up 10 times, some people would still buy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how greedy, some people are. They want this no matter what the cost is. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the reason,
Mm,
that industries, car industries haven't shut down, even though they're selling 100 grand cars now, and people are still buying them. Like, they can't keep them.
yeah, no, I'm glad you bring that up. That's one of the major problems of today is something about older generations, and I don't know exactly what generation the cutoff point was, but, like, I remember my granddad, for instance, he wouldn't just always accept a price that somebody wanted him to pay. There used to be a thing called haggling,
That's
and
right.
now everybody just whatever the price is, okay, I'll pay it.
That's right.
It's like nobody fights back. An economy like ours is designed for you to give a little bit of pushback, fight
Sure.
back a little bit. Otherwise, you're gonna get taken advantage of,
That's right.
and that leads to everybody getting taken advantage of. So, yeah, I'm saying you guys should bring back haggling. Don't always immediately give in to what a business wants you to pay.
And again, I know that I've mentioned this before, but you just look at the availability of vehicles. You know, when I was a kid, and I know probably too, Kevin, when you were, it was not an uncommon thing to go down the road on any road and see a car that somebody had out in front of their house selling it.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm
Yeah, I
talking
don't know
about
what
like
happened.
$5,000, $10,000 here. You know, this is for stuff.
Mhm.
The reason is that many more people are buying these things now because they can't afford to go out and buy $100,000 vehicle.
Mhm.
They want and honestly, if you're it's crazy.
Yeah.
If you even if you go and you see a car for sale beside the road, it's the price of what would have been an expensive brand new car when I was a kid. I mean,
Mhm.
when you see a car out by the road and they're asking 30, 40,000,
And it's got
50,000 for it.
100,000
Yeah,
miles
and it's
on
got
it.
100,000 miles on it. That is unheard of. People
Yeah.
would look at you like you had lost your mind
Oh,
just a
yeah.
few years ago.
Yeah, no, that's why I brought up my granddad, man. I picture him, like, wanting to slap somebody in the face or he'd be losing his mind.
That's right.
For the longest time, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but according to my family, he was born in, I think it was 1913. He had a mule before he had a vehicle.
Sure.
So they used to not even have a vehicle, just had a work mule. But when he finally, one of his first vehicles, it may not have been his very first, but he used to have this either 40 something or 50 something black Chevy, no AC, you know. Um, and I wish I knew what he originally paid for that thing, but I guarantee you it was less than $2,000 that he paid for that thing.
Sure.
Um, yeah,
Brand new.
yeah, they would be having heart attacks and aneurysms over what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, it's
I,
crazy.
I mean, and they'd look at us like we're dumb and we
It's kinda
deserve it.
strange, you know, in a lot of instances, you know, and we've brought this up before, the phenomena of COVID, but, a lot of things changed in COVID as far and I think, the used car thing was a huge thing that changed in COVID. Uh, we were not able to produce cars that we needed to because people weren't working. Uh, computer chips were not being made because people weren't working during COVID, and that drove up the price of used cars, and they have not come down. They just
Yeah,
have not come down.
yeah. No, I'm
That's where the industry's taking advantage, you know?
yeah. Something else that I've told people before is I've read several times, and I think I agree with this now, even more so than real estate and housing. I believe that vehicles are the number one destroyer of wealth right now. Not, I mean,
I believe you're probably right.
the cost of vehicles is high, just cash alone, even if you were to buy them in cash. But once you start factoring in debt, let's say you get underwater on one vehicle and either it gets repoed or you have to sell it and you're still underwater on that. Well, now you still need a new vehicle and now you're underwater on that one. At one point, it doesn't go away unless somebody forgives your debt.
And that's if you're able to get one.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it eats away at your credit score.
Sure.
And before you know it, people end up with, it used to be that 400 was credit score always increases with time. But
If you this is and it sounds like I'm being hyperbolic here, I'm not. A person that doesn't have somebody that they can fall back on for help, family member, friends.
upside down was the term I was trying
Sure,
to say.
sure. If you don't have family members or friends that could help you if you got in a bind, it is not inconceivable that nowadays it would be very easy to find yourself, and I'm not being hyperbolic, to go from living a comfortable life to literally being homeless if you mismanaged, even a little bit
No,
wrong.
most of us are a few bad financial decisions away from being in poverty for sure. Um, and it's unfortunate. And People say that part of the problem with why vehicles are so expensive now is all the safety features and standards that
Mhm.
American vehicles have to meet that maybe some other nations don't have. And maybe that's true to a little extent, but to me, that doesn't account for why the price would be double or triple what it would be in other places. There's definitely a greed and a disconnect that has gotten us to where we are. And like you spoke about earlier, the fact that people are just willing to spend whatever it takes to get whatever it is that they want.
Mhm.
Until people stop behaving in that manner, we're going to keep going down this path.
That's right.
And it's not a good path to go down. But
If and I know we probably gotta close here in a second, but if we people are completely unwilling to do it, I get that. However, if people band together, there's strength there. If everybody got together and decided, "Hey, prices have risen to a level where they're absolutely incredibly, out of, sync," uh, everybody's gonna band together, and for the next 6 months, nobody is gonna buy a new car. What do you think would happen in this world
yeah,
if everybody band together and didn't do that? You
yeah.
know?
But unfortunately, and I mean, it would be good, certainly for consumers, if that were to happen more often. But, you know, that's unfortunately the way that the world is. People don't tend to organize in that way
That's
unless
right.
unless things get really, really, really bad. And
And that's just because it got to a level where they couldn't, you
yeah,
know?
but I mean, I wish people would organize more like that. And like, you know, don't think I'm trying to incite anything or encourage anything, but I do sort of wish people would do that to a degree with the government shutdowns and be like, hey, if everybody decides not to go show up for work, I guarantee you those politicians are going to get off their rear ends
That's
and
right.
figure out how to come to some sort of agreement. If if every air traffic controller, every any federal
Because
agency,
trust
they
me,
all stop coming to work. Oh
any politician can read the tea leaves. I
yeah,
guarantee you, if they see that something's going against them, they can quickly change their mind about
yeah.
something.
And I think there have been some air traffic control guys that are like, I'm not coming
That's
until you
right.
start paying us.
That's
And
right.
what happens when that's every single air traffic controller and now you have nobody able to travel by air
And
anymore?
let's be honest, who wants a backup air traffic controller
Yeah.
to be guiding your plane, you know?
Yeah. Now you got the D team being like, "Oh, boys, how many feet are we from this other air?"
That's right.
That was a
That's
close
right.
one, guys.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's they better I would hope that there's more of a sense of urgency now because although we're not seeing this yet, I mean, I don't understand why people aren't more frustrated about it than they are. And again, I'm not trying to encourage or incite anything, but me personally, You wouldn't you wouldn't catch me coming to work without I mean, I might put up with it for a week or 2, but after that, I'm gonna be like, "See ya. I'm going
Right.
to DoorDash or Walmart Spark or
Right.
you can kiss my rear," you know?
Right.
But, yeah, um, that being said, anybody, uh, got any final words or topics that they wanna discuss?
Do we have a verse for the day or
Well, so we thought we were gonna have a guest today, so I should have prepared a verse anyway. I didn't. Um, I'm trying to think of a financial related verse, or I mean, we spoke a few earlier about debt. The Bible talks about borrower being slave to the lender, and Ramsey talks about that one a lot. Um, let me see if I can find something real quick.
I looked it up and the first one that came up is that one. The rich rule over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. Proverbs 22:7.
Yeah,
Let's look at
Proverbs is a good one.
Proverbs 21:20. Look at Proverbs 21:20.
Yeah, the wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get. And that's that almost like hurts your feelings a little bit to hear that because it's so true of society today. Um,
And what did the Bible describe those people as?
Fools, and that's strong language, man. But see, and I agree with it, but at the same time, it's not entirely their fault when you have education systems in society teaching you that that's what you do,
Sure.
you know? If you have everything and everybody teaching you that that's just what you do, then it becomes accepted, you know, in the mainstream society, and
And what
here
did we
we are.
talk about before? The world teaches you the exact opposite of what the Bible teaches you.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep, and it's very true. Um, but yeah, uh, that seems like a really good verse. I'm actually glad we stumbled across that one. I've never seen that one before, but uh, that's one I'm gonna use more often for sure because that's a hilarious example of where we are today.
Amen.
That's um, but anyway, with that being said, appreciate you guys coming, even though you're here every week, but and hopefully, you know, we'll the guest that we tried to have today, we'll get him at some point. It's just he does a lot of traveling, so but anyway, I think that's gonna do it
Amen.
for us.
Everybody
So
have a good week.